Chicano Ideas YouTube channel. That is me, Rudy Tecolo. Famous Wolf 24 is my Instagram if you want to look me up. If you got a Facebook, look up Chicano Community. And always give a thumbs up, share your thoughts and comments. I want to know what you're thinking. But I want to talk about a story again, the Chicano kid. That's just me relating to how I grew up. About my Southside homie. I met that vato when I moved to Sacramento in '99. His name was Joel Marcos. I always remember him. Rest in peace, Joel. And this one goes out to you. And I met Joel in the 3rd grade, and he was like pretty much the only Mexican kid that I could think of that stood out, and we clicked real quick. We played soccer all the time. We went to elementary school together from 3rd to 5th grade, but in the 6th grade, I had to leave to the middle school, and I couldn't stay at the elementary school because I didn't live in the neighborhood, and they allowed me to stay there. But once I hit 6th grade, they made me leave the elementary school. And so, but me and Joel always got along. We were the best of friends in elementary school, catching crickets out in the field and throwing them and releasing them in like the classrooms or the cafeterias. Just fun times playing soccer and all that on the playground. But once Joel came to the 7th grade at middle school, which was like across the street, pretty much just right around the corner from the elementary school, I was already getting into that Norte mentality of the hoodlum mentality by the time he came. And Joel, I kind of always knew, but Joel knew about the South Side. Like in elementary school, we were aware of this, but we didn't trip about it. But then middle school came, and Joel and everyone that I knew in elementary school came in the 7th grade. They got to stay in the 6th grade for elementary. So Joel was already knew people and had friends and knew people from his brothers of the kids who were claiming to be, Southside. But me and Joel, our 7th grade year, we were pretty cordial still. Like, Joel was my buddy in elementary school, and I still had a lot of love for him. And we still always kind of talked and associated a little bit throughout the 7th grade year. And we never really tripped off each other, even though we were turning our separate ways, one going the other way and him going to the blue way. So, and by the time 8th grade year came around, I remember me and Joel weren't talking at all. Like, too much confrontation happened with our friends, and too much confrontations happened to where we just had to stop talking. And he possibly stole from me and my homie before our shit. So it just got real complicated to where we just had to stop talking, you know? And so by the time high school came around, and then it gets even more serious. His brothers, I've known who they were. They've had problems with my homies. They've tried to bother me. But me and Joel, we never went at it with each other. We never tried to fight each other. We used to see each other walking. Like, I was known for riding my bike. I'd see Joel walking. I'd come by, ride by his house, or see him walking around just town. And, like, we would just ignore each other. Like, I'd literally ride by him, and like we may not even look at each other, or we might just look at each other, and we wouldn't say no words to each other. And we were the best of friends in elementary school. And now it's freshman year, especially freshman year when shit got tighter. Like, we definitely didn't say nothing to each other. We would just walk by like we never even knew each other. But I always remember my freshman year when I was chilling with the homeboys, and we caught Joel at the playground. He was with his hyena at the time and her little brother and sister. These fools were like 3, 4, 5 years old, and the homeboys seen Joel, and they're like, there goes that one fool, let's go hit him up. And they were hitting him up like, hey, what's up, fool? Where you claim with you? He's like, Joel was kind of associated, but he never banged too hard. But he was like almost in the round, but he tried not to, just because that's who he knew, So Joel always just dressed like a cholo. Hey, that's the style of a Chicano, but that's not the way out here. and where I live. So Joel, was like, nah, I'm good. I don't bang or nothing. And he was on the playground, and my homies started walking up on the playground like they just started coming from different ways, and they started coming up, and Joel's backing up, but it's the slide that goes down, so he was stopped. So my other homeboy climbs up the slide behind him, and takes off on him, and the homies just they start getting off on him. They jumped him. They were just jumping him. The little babies are crying. His girlfriend, his hyena's crying, and they're just giving it to that fool. And like me, I just stood there like they were like, "Come on, let's go!" Like, let's go. Lokes is what my nickname was. Like, man, and I was just like, nah, I'm cool. Like, I'm good. Like, I never let anybody pressure me into doing something that I never wanted to do. And if you try to call me a punk about it, then me and you are going at it. You're not gonna let me call me a punk, and I'll show you what's up, because I'm not gonna do what I don't want to do. And I just had too much history with Joel to just go, jump somebody that I used to have fun with in time of my life as a kid. And so, after that happened with Joel, I remember them talking about it at school, and they were talking about how they jumped him, and like, oh, you didn't go up there and do nothing. Like, man, I didn't need to. Like, you guys were already jumping him. Like, how much more did I need? you know so I even think I've said, like, I known Joel, and it's hard for me to, I can't do that. But so it's just crazy how, how shit can change. You could be the best of friends, and just because two people choose to want to gang bang and choose other sides, that you uh go your separate ways and ignore each other, act like you don't know each other. And Joel always did the same thing when his brothers would hit me up or try to get at me. Like, Joel never did anything. They would say, Joel, they told Joel to go get a weapon, a baseball bat, and Joel just walked away into his house and didn't even come back out. I never forget that. While his brothers were trying to find me, Joel just walked away. And of course, that was after school, so I had homies eventually coming up, but we never did anything to each other. We never tried to attack each other. He never tried to jump me. I never tried to jump him, and that's just the way it was. And when I moved, Joe eventually stopped going to school. I didn't see him for many years, and then I seen him when I came back. I probably didn't see Joe for 4 years, and then I seen him in like 2011 somewhere, just in traffic, pulling into a parking lot. He was with his lady at the time, and as soon as we seen each other, it was just like he seen me. I was driving out the window, and it was just like, for the first time, we both said, "What's up?" with each other. We looked at each other. We said, "Hey." He's like, "Look, it's Rudy." And like, I was like, "Hurry up and park." Like, I thought he would have probably waited, but I guess they took off. Like, I came out the car looking for him. And that was the first time me and Joel ever acknowledged each other since the seventh grade, since we were both 13, and we were probably both 20 years old. So that's about almost a 8 year gap of us finally acknowledging each other and saying hi to each other. And that was actually the last time I even saw Joel, was in 2011. Unfortunately, like, Joel never had a Facebook too much, and I used to drive by Joel's house sometimes just to see if I would see him out there or try to see him around town. And I have not seen Joel since I was 20 years old. And I found out about a year ago that Joel passed away, that he was killed. He got into it. You hang around with the wrong crowds. You know, Parus get into it with the Southsiders out here, and Joel unfortunately got shot. I heard, after many years of not seeing him, not having no contact with him, and he just happened to be on my mind. And I looked up his Facebook, and he happened to have one, and I sent him the set friend request. And then days go by, nothing happens, and I went deeper into his Facebook or something, and I seen that, I seen a rest in peace Joel Marcos. And that's just something that will always get to me. I always remember Joel. I always remember those times we had in elementary. And it's just unfortunate that stuff like that has happened. And if you know people in life, you should never turn your back on each other or go your separate ways over nonsense like that. And so rest in peace to Joel, bro. I always remember those good times, homie. Peace.